Beast Wars Season 3, Episode 7, Proving Grounds. Now this is a very Blackarachnia focused episode where they really bring into question kind of her morality and her stance as a character in this universe. She's gone through some changes now, and she's with the Maximals kind of like the original Dinobot was early on. And it's a little different with her. She did it out of pure necessity. It somewhat involves, her relationship with Silverbolt, but mostly she was going to get, erased from history because she was initially a Maximal protoform. And it's brought up early on. It basically starts in this episode where they're kind of scanning her body, and I don't know what the deal is because they kind of make a joke in this, so I'm like, I'm not 100% sure if what they were doing was supposed to be basically a digital version of her nude, because she's getting scanned and stuff, and she's like, do I look as good on the inside as I do on the outside? And they're talking and stuff like that. And Cheetor is there, and he's like, now that's what I call it. Like, he's like, now those are lines or something. And this is like a 3D image of her character. And I'm like, maybe that was just the fact that he sees a more detailed version of her body, maybe not exactly nude, because they were literally like going into her body to find what's stopping her from becoming like a full-on Maximal, what's stopping her from kind of recognizing her original Maximal programming. So I don't know if that's what that was supposed to be, like them seeing like x-rays of each other as hot or something, or maybe it's just Cheetor and it's just Blackarachnia, so that's how he feels. But they go through and they talk about it a little bit, and it's like, alright, well, this is what's stopping you from becoming a Maximal. And she's getting a little pissed off because Rat Trap comes in, he does what he does, and he says something, and he pisses her off, so she like chokes him, and he's like, he freaks out, and then she points a gun at Cheetor because she's like, I'm tired of I'm tired of you guys judging me, as a Predacon. So she's choking Rat Trap, and then she points at Cheetor, and she's like, and I'm just tired of your stupid crush. So she got pissed off and she leaves, and so they have Rhinox and Optimus. They're talking after they find like the Maximal program blocker. And so she, of course, being herself, she kind of stays in the room and spies on him. And they're talking about it. It's like, alright, well, if we do this, it's super risky because we could turn her into a Maximal, but if we screw up, it'll basically wipe her clean. Like, she'll be a Maximal, but she won't really be herself, and it'll kind of, wipe her slate clean. So Optimus is like, it's too big of a risk, let's go get her. And so she's like, well, F these guys, they're going to just try to, they're going to take the super risky route just to make me a full-on Maximal. So she takes off. She leaves the base and kind of just runs out into the wilderness, and Dinobot just so happens to be there, so he chases her down. And they start to have a little cat and mouse game, and it kind of switches who's the cat and who's the mouse in the forest. And it's actually pretty cool because this is an area that they've never shown before, and it's like, they've had the jungle, but this was like an actual forest, so it was really cool. They had like giant, it would be like red oak type trees, and they were like super huge trees, and they could, hide behind stuff, and it's just a normal looking forest, but everything's elevated. So, for Blackarachnia, that actually worked in her favor a little bit because she could jump around, and it was really cool. It was a nice new setting. And so it starts off with Dinobot, following Blackarachnia, and then she decides, alright, because he's actually trying to bait her at first, and he doesn't attack her, he just kind of makes noise and he runs around. So he's baiting her at first, but because she's actually really good, she naturally, she actually does end up hunting him, and she's like jumping through the trees and stuff. And so they're going back and forth, and he actually baits her into the Decepticon base, or not the base, but into kind of Decepticon territory where they have a jamming, I guess, a jamming tower so that she can't get in touch with the Maximals. So he baits her into that, and, she walks in, but then she actually does start getting one up on him, and she kind of holds her own for quite a while, and she actually defeats him. Like, she actually beats him, and it's like, that's when she realizes that she went too far, and it's like, crap, he tricked me to bring me here. But it's like, oh, she knocked him out, and she's talking, and she's turned away from him. And I wasn't thinking of this when she shot him, because she like blew a hole in his chest and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, he can't die because he's just like Rampage. So he was like, it was almost like a character that's immortal, but not invincible. Like, he actually was downed, and then basically the spark opened up in his chest and it healed him. And that was pretty much it. He got up and he was, he was back to fighting her again. And she was already, kind of damaged at this point. And she's like, basically like, crap, I'm kind of freaking screwed now because I got to deal with this guy. But fortunately, Silverbolt comes in. Unfortunately, he kind of just gets tackled like super early on, and so he's kind of used as bait. And Blackarachnia kind of has to come up with a solution, and so she decides that she's actually going to shoot Silverbolt. So she shoots him up and damages him, and she's like, this is a battle between Predacons. So she tries to do kind of her normal thing where it's like, hey, why don't we team up? I got the information for Teletran 1 to get rid of all the defenses and everything. You're really strong. We could team up. We could rule, then, take out Megatron. And it doesn't work in this case because he's like, you're a fool, and then he kind of hits her with some sort of crazy laser that he's never had before, and basically she just starts glowing, but it's very painful. So she's on the ground, and he's about to basically like extract the information somehow, and that's when Silverbolt gets up. He's a bit wounded and stuff, but he's able to get up, and he's able to fight back like a tiny bit, and he gets him off of Blackarachnia for a second, and then they're able to team up and actually take him down because Dinobot has like this hologram thing that he uses on Blackarachnia to trick her. And when Silverbolt first comes in, he knocks the hologram out of like empty space. Like, how it is in cartoons. They take something and put it behind their back, and it's like, that was like, 5 feet tall, and he just did like this and it's gone. So they did that sort of thing, but he shot him and it fell out of, infinite space. So he actually used the hologram to distract Dinobot, and that's how he was able to help Blackarachnia. And then they teamed up and they knocked him off a cliff. Blackarachnia used like her poison dart thing because she did it the first time. That's how she defeated him. And it's like, all right, he didn't go down permanently, so I think I need to do like a quadruple dose or whatever. So they knock him off a cliff, and then he does like the Terminator thing where he grabs it, it's like at the last second he's still coming at him, but she shoots him like straight in the face and knocks him, flat off the cliff. So he gets knocked off the cliff, everything's fine, and basically Optimus comes in after the battle, and he's like, oh, we weren't gonna like force you to do it, it was your choice, like we weren't actually gonna kill you or anything, and it's kind of just a huge misunderstanding. She was like, oh. And then they kind of go back to base. That's pretty much how it ends. Like the whole thing, it was a fun episode, but it's kind of a funny ending where it's like, she just assumed that they were going to force it to do it. And then, of course, they did it on purpose, of course, because the way they made it seem was like, oh, it's too big of a risk. But you couldn't tell which part he was talking about. It was like if it was too big of a risk for her to stay as a Predacon, or if it was too big of a risk to just instantly, try to, take out the programming despite possibly wiping her memory. So it was just like, that's too big of a risk, let's go get her. Because that's how they made it seem in the beginning of the episode, which is what they should do. Otherwise, you just know exactly what's going to happen. Although, the whole point, it's not like it matters anyway. Even if, we knew what he meant, like they had another scene where we knew exactly what he meant, she still would have taken off. So it still would have been the same episode, really. But it was kind of a funny ending where she's like, I had a choice. And he was like, yeah, you always had a choice. We're Maximals. Like, we don't just force you to do stuff. And he's like, you can, but ultimately the choice is up to you. And he's like, well, let's get you guys back to base and we'll decide there. So he takes off, and then, of course, we have a Blackarachnia and Silverbolt moment. And, she's just talking like, I plan on staying myself and stuff like that. And he's like, we'll see. He's kind of just like, we'll see what happens. And, the scene when she shot him up and stuff, she had to explain it to him why she shot him. Like, if I didn't shoot you, then he would have flat out killed you. Like, he would have, because he had the laser beam that like burns through people. He had it like sizzling his forehead. So she was like, all right, I got to shoot him up to kind of save him, really. Like, she of course only wounded him, so he's fine. And so she had to explain that to him, like, obviously I didn't want to hurt you. And he's like, you shot me though. He's like, yeah, but he would have blown your head off if I didn't shoot you, so you're fine. So they have their little, their little conversation like that, and then, they head back to base, and that's pretty much where it ends. So it was a nice episode where she realized, in the end, she does have a choice. Like, they might kind of, well, mostly Rat Trap, he might mess with her, and they might still have that odd issue of her technically being a Predacon, but she realized, by the end of this episode, that she still does have a choice, whether she is actually Predacon or not. They still give her the option. Like, it's still her choice. She is a part of the team, and they do actually care about her, despite, Rat Trap. Because it's just like with Dinobot, except I think he's a bit more verbal, because they fought against her for so much longer than they fought against Dinobot. Like, he was kind of just there, and then in the first episode, it's like, you're a Predacon, but you fought with us, and then that was pretty much it. Like, the whole series was that. And with her, she came in, really early on. She came in, season 1, and so they've been fighting her for a super long time, and now she's finally a part of the team. So that's like, that's just prime material for Rat Trap, where he's just going to bug her all the freaking time. So, despite some of the issues she might have being around the team, she realized that she is an actual part of it. So I like that in the episode. The action itself was good, sort of the cat and mouse game with Dinobot, or Dinobot 2, because it's weird to just call him Dinobot, but that's what they call him. But he also had a really good focus too, and just them showing like how tough he is and stuff like that, and him kind of hunting her down and her hunting him down. And then when they finally come head to head, and she like takes him out, but then his spark like actually heals him like some sort of crazy magical zombie or something, and he just keeps going because he has Rampage's spark. So it was actually pretty cool. I really enjoyed that. Definitely a good action episode, and certainly a good character episode. They've been doing a lot with Blackarachnia with her and the whole Cheetor thing, and then this being like the episode where it's like, alright, I don't feel like I'm a part of the team, so I might as well not be on the team. So really like that this finally came up in this episode. Definitely a fun one. Of course, if you guys have any comments about this episode or anything Transformers in general, please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.